Rainbow Reflections, Book 1, A Kind of Magic, Chapter 21, Will Soon Be Gone. School was back in session January 11th, and Ren couldn't believe that she wouldn't have her sister beside her, at least not in all of the classes. After Magic Studies class that Moon Day morning, she waved goodbye to Zin. She still remembered when Zin had returned from Greater with Hyaktu, carrying the large crates of hormonal blocking potions. At first, Ren had been happy for her sister. But then, when she'd learned that the potion would definitely block off magic, not even permitting Zin to reach for her magic. Ren sighed as she walked to the magic channeling classroom. It's not like Zin had magic in the first place, she thought. But she could have had it by now if she didn't get that potion, if she actually connected with herself. Now we're not doing school together. She luckily didn't have time to dwell on her thoughts. Khurshid had a small surprise for them when the 21st years entered the classroom.
Today, you'll be using the magic from within you,
he announced.
This is different from using the environment around you. Last semester, you used your magic to control what was around you rather than create your element yourself. I am sure a few of you are wondering how this can be. How does an Earth student create their own Earth? How does someone with fire magic create...
I know how,
C3 said, raising his hand.
Earth is the basic molecules that we are made of, besides water, of course. The proteins, the fats, the DNA. Water is everywhere. It's in the cytoplasm and outside of the cells. Fire is the ATP, what powers the body to move and perform reactions. You can also see it as the electrical impulses in nerves, which control the body and monitor it. Air is, well, air. You need it for cellular respiration, which is how cells get energy. The body is a perfect combination of the elements.
Everyone stared at him, including the blind Khurshid. C3 sighed in exasperation.
Earth is what makes your body. Water is what maintains your body. Fire is what controls your body. Air is what gives your body life. Is that simple enough for you fools?
Ren frowned. That still doesn't explain how an Earth person can create a rock or something, though.
I was getting to it, but you all looked hopelessly lost,
he retorted, sticking his nose in the air. They continued to gaze at him until Khurshid cleared his throat.
Thank you for explaining how the elements make up the body, C3. Now, how does an Earth person create a stone?
Is it the wand? Raimugi asked from the back of the class. With the plant's magic, it can create things? Khurshid smiled.
A lot of people might think that, but how would a person use their inner magic if they're without a wand, using their body or hands instead?
Nobody answered him.
Your inner magic will take parts of the element from your own body,
Khurshid said.
Parts that aren't overly necessary. For example, an Earth magician can take excess fat or even a bit from muscles. But using the body for Earth magic can be dangerous, especially if you're not taking breaks and giving your body time to recover. Your magic will replenish the parts of you taken, but again, it takes time. This is why most Earth magicians just control the Earth around them. After all, there's plenty of earth. Fire magicians, on the other hand, don't often find their element around them. They therefore depend more on creating fire, which works when taking it from the electrical impulses in the nerves. These electrical impulses regenerate in milliseconds, so it's not a big deal. That's why fire magicians create their element more than control it. As for water and air, those are abundant for both control and creation. Water can be found around you, even in thick fog or plants, if there aren't any rivers around. And air is clearly all around us. Bodies are made of water, and you definitely need air to survive, so both forms are plentiful. Raimugi, it is true that wands can help when you're creating your own magic.
Khurshid went on.
The plant magic aids you, and you won't feel as worn out. It also helps replenish your own body, especially if you're an earth magician. But enough theory. You will each be trying to create your own element today. Earth magicians, you will only do the exercise half as many times as the other students. If you feel faint or dizzy, you are to stop immediately. The rest of you can have a bit more fun, but the same thing applies. Using your inner magic to create the element takes a lot of energy on the first attempts, wand or no wand.
Do we still need to tell the element what to do? Frost asked.
Yes, that would be best,
Khurshid said.
While it's not necessary, the more you tell your magic what to do, the more you can visualize it yourself and make it happen.
The students broke into their normal elemental groups, except that the air group was now a trio without Zin. Ren sighed as she joined C3 and Murnau on the edge of the classroom.
Where is Cinemus?
C3 asked Ren.
She was just here for magic studies.
She won't be doing magic classes anymore, Ren said shortly. Why not? Murnau asked, wide-eyed. Did her magic block off? Yes, Ren replied.
How?
C3 queried. Ren sighed. Zin and Hyaktu had both told her that she could tell the truth about the hormonal blocking potions, but she wasn't sure she wanted everyone prying into Zin's life like that. She's on a hormonal blocking potion, Ren muttered at last.
Why would she do a silly thing like that?
C3 scoffed.
Does she want to wait until she is 15 to learn magic? That's what I had to do, and it was not fun.
Ren scowled at him. She's doing that because it's important to her. More important than magic. More important than staying with me. The others did not press her further, as they started on the exercise set before them, creating their own element. Ren struggled with connecting to her magic, and though she ordered it to make her own wind, she could feel she was controlling the air around her instead. C3 was the first of the trio to create his own air, and Ren only managed it by the end of class. Murnau didn't get his magic to come at all.
We'll be doing the same thing next week,
Khurshid told him as the bell rang.
Once most of you get the hang of it, we'll have some fun.
Not without Zin, Ren thought. She went to plants class with the other first years, barely talking to Sarala on the way. Hyaktu had been right when he said that the second semester would include more magic. Fern had the students using their own magic to determine how much magic was in a plant before harvesting the magic from that plant. Potions, meanwhile, saw the students doing more enchantments throughout the process of brewing a potion rather than simply at the end. They only had to do 3 enchantments as they brewed a sleeping potion, 1 halfway through and 2 towards the end. But Fern promised they'd be doing up to 20 enchantments by the time the semester ended. Ren was in a better mood by lunch when she saw Zin sitting at a table. She hurried over to her sister eagerly. "Hey, Ren," Zin said in a somewhat high voice, setting her spoon down in her bowl of soup. "How was class?" "She's trying to be happy for me," Ren realized. "Oh, a bit boring," she lied. "Oh, really?" Zin queried. "That's too bad." "So what did you do?" Ren asked, sitting down as Sorella walked on towards the counter. Zin shrugged. "Played a few games of Yet with Dad, then drew some pictures." They fell into silence for a bit. "I can't wait for Kung Fu," Ren said at last. "At least we'll both be able to do that." Zin nodded. "Should be fun to learn new material again. You think we'll be able to get to Blue Sash before the end of the year?" "Only if we work super hard," Ren replied. "I wonder what Sorella's going to learn in her new Kung Fu class tomorrow," Zin commented, glancing over at Sorella, who was now collecting food on 2 trays. "I know there are weapons at the Blue Sash level, but I don't know what weapon or how many," Ren said. "I guess we'll just have to wait and see when she goes tomorrow, but she'll definitely be happy to learn some weapons at last, since she's interested in them." By the time Sorella returned with the 2 trays, handing one to Ren, the 3 girls were chatting about martial arts like Zin hadn't been absent from the morning classes. Once they finished eating, they went to the Kung Fu studio together, as they typically did. But Sorella soon left them when the minute bell rang. "Great, no Zin in the morning, no Sorella in the afternoon," Ren thought glumly. But with Zin beside her, Ren didn't feel Sorella's absence terribly. She and Zin learned their new green sash kicks from Hyaktu, as he didn't have to run any tests. In the combative class, the sisters partnered up for the grappling drills. They went to Tai Chi together and learned the beginning of the 40 step, then played push hands in the next class, having fun as they pulled each other off balance. As the sisters crossed the snow-covered courtyard to the eating hall together, Ren was feeling normal again. She beamed at her sister, who returned the smile. I don't think this whole not taking class thing will be too bad," Zin commented. "I'm still taking a good amount of classes after all." "Yeah," Ren murmured. "But the 3 classes you're not taking feel so different without you." "You'll get through it," Zin said. "Just like I will get through not going to them." "But you're going to get so bored. Is Dad going to teach you anything at all?" Zin shrugged. "He didn't say anything about it today. I suppose it's because I'm still in some classes that he doesn't feel he needs to homeschool me again." "Oh, I could show you what we went over in class, so you can still learn something," Ren said excitedly.
That would not be fair,
said a loud voice behind them. Ren and Zin glanced over their shoulders to see C3. He was glaring at the sisters through his green and blue eyes as he trailed them to the eating hall. "Why not?" Ren queried. "It's not like Zin can do the magic, so why can't she just learn the concepts behind it? It'd be like doing research without doing the practical part."
If Mr. Saihan took Zinimus out of the magic classes,
C3 said pointedly,
he clearly thinks they are above her level. And he's right, isn't he? She can't do any of the stuff we did in classes today.
Ren rolled her eyes and faced back forward. She looked over at Zin and smiled. "Let's ask Dad if you could come to the classes to observe only, or if I could at least show you what we did and tell you how magic works. Like we harvested magic from plants today and—"
Are you just going to throw this magic knowledge out to any non-magical person?
C3 scoffed, walking alongside Ren now, his feet crunching the snow loudly in his irritation. "Zin's magical," Ren growled. "At least, she would be if she wasn't taking the potion, but she's still magical. She's still at the magical age." C3 frowned.
If she doesn't have magic now, then she shouldn't be enrolled in the school. It's not right that she still gets to learn about magic and do martial arts, even if martial arts isn't magical. Mr. Saihan said that the school turned away anyone without magic. So why does Zin get to stay?
Because she lives here, Ren grunted sarcastically.
I meant in the classes,
C3 said coldly.
If other students would be kicked out of all classes, then why does she get to stay? Just because she's the founder's kid?
Just leave her alone already, Ren snapped. Zin. But Zin was no longer beside Ren. She stopped in her tracks abruptly, spraying snow in all directions as she glanced around. Her sister was nowhere to be seen. C3 continued walking towards the eating hall, leaving Ren standing alone in the snow. Ren looked back the way they'd come and realized that there were tracks leading back to the Tai Chi studio. She hurried over the icy ground, nearly slipping several times, until she was back in the classroom. Zin? She called as she opened the door. Zin's hand was on the knob of the tower door, ready to open it. She glanced over at Ren, then lowered her gaze guiltily. C3's wrong, you know, she said, not even sure how much of C3's words Zin had heard. He's just a jerk. We all know it. Zin sighed and dropped her hand from the knob. Yeah, he can be, but he is right, isn't he? It's not fair that I get to keep taking classes, and it wouldn't be right of you to show me everything you learned if I'm no longer in those classes. If you're willing to show a non-magical person stuff about magic, wouldn't that just be hurting Dad by passing on his teachings to those who don't deserve to learn it yet? There's a reason people have to pay for magical education. This stuff isn't just on the internet, free for everyone and anyone to see. Zin, that's not the point, Ren said sternly, walking over to her sister. I wouldn't be putting this information on the internet or teaching any random person I come across. I'd be teaching you. But we both know I'm non-magical, with or without the potions. I never should have been enrolled this year, which means that I never should have learned anything that I already did. Zin, I'm just gonna ask Dad to drop me from the rest of the classes, Zin muttered, closing her eyes. It's not fair to everyone else. But Zin, I'm sorry, Ren. It looks like we won't be learning anything together after all. Zin opened the door to the tower and went inside, locking it behind her. Of course, Ren had her own key and could easily unlock it, but she knew Zin would be in her room by that point. Ren sighed and turned away from the tower, her heart aching as she felt more alone than at any other point that day. She exited the Tai Chi studio and stared at the snowy courtyard. Kicking the ice beneath her feet, she let out another sigh. I guess I'd better go have dinner. Alone. But before she could take another step towards the eating hall, a flash of light caught her eye, reflected on the snow in front of her. She glanced up, trying to see where the light had come from. There, she muttered under her breath, squinting up at the tower. A bright light was shining from the 5th floor window. But it wasn't the regular ceiling light that was on. It was a beam of light transitioning between bright and dim. The white light shined for several moments, then vanished. Ren frowned, wondering what Sarala could be doing in her room. Weird, she muttered. As far as she knew, the only thing Sarala owned was a wand, a notebook, and a few clothes Ren had given her. None of those objects could possibly be causing the light. Unless she was a fire magician using her wand to practice magic. But she's an earth magician, Ren uttered. Unless she gained a second magic. Ren turned back to the Tai Chi studio and entered, hurrying over to the tower door. But she stopped at the sound of voices within. Zin was talking to Hyaktu. About dropping classes. About leaving her. Ren took a deep breath, though her body was still full of tension. She forced herself to relax after several more breaths, then turned and exited the studio. She didn't want to hear the conversation on the other side of the door. "I'll just ask Sorella about it later," she uttered, trying to keep her mind off of Zin. She soon reached the eating hall, shooting a glare at C3 on the other side of the large room where he sat alone. Ren went to the counter and grabbed a tray, collecting a small amount of food, as she suddenly lost her appetite despite the tasty aromas floating through the air. She saw Sorella sitting at a nearby table and joined her. "You okay?" Sorella asked, glancing up at Ren as she sat down. "I don't know," Ren moaned, shaking her head. "Want to talk about it?" "I don't know," Ren repeated, resting her pointed chin in her palm. Then she frowned at Sorella. "Wait, have you been in here?" "Yeah, I got in early before a line could form," Sorella said, pointing at her empty bowl. "Why?" "I saw a weird light in your room," Ren said. "It was like a bright white light. It flashed a few times before stopping." Sorella frowned. "That's odd." Ren nodded. "Especially if you weren't in there." "You sure it wasn't the ceiling light?" Sorella queried. Ren shook her head. "Those lights only turn on when they detect movement," she pointed out. "Unless a bug got in your room? Even so, there's no way that light was that bright." "I better go check it out then," Sorella growled, getting to her feet abruptly. Ren grabbed her hand. "Please don't leave me." Sorella stared down at her for a long moment, then muttered, "Just come with me." "Oh, I guess I can," Ren muttered, blushing. I don't want to be alone. I feel like Zin's pushing away from me. Is there something wrong with me?" Sorella shook her head at once, leaning on the table. "Nothing is wrong with you." Ren lowered her gaze to her small amount of food. "Yeah, right," she murmured. "If there was something wrong with you, I wouldn't be your friend," Sorella huffed. Ren snorted. "That's a bit harsh." "I don't make friends with jerks," Sorella said plainly. "Now let's go check out that weird light." "Can I eat first?" Ren asked. "Fine," Sorella grumbled, and she resumed her seat. "You have 5 minutes." Ren leaned forward in her chair and scooped the smooth soup quickly into her mouth. Instantly warm, the feeling spread through her whole body and made her smile. She was glad to have Sorella with her. She glanced out the window of the eating hall to the snow beyond. An image came to her mind from years before. Ren and Zin throwing snowballs around as kids, and one of them striking Hyaktu in the face by accident. She smiled at the memory. "Zin and I always do everything together," she mused in a soft voice, still staring out the window with glazed eyes. "We have this little house. It was sort of our house before the school was built, at least when we were taking a break from traveling on the ship." "You have a ship?" Sorella asked blankly. Ren's eyes focused on her friend as she snorted in amusement. "How else would Dad have taken Zin to her appointment in Greytor? That city is a few hours away, even by air." "Your ship flies?" Sorella pressed. "Have you never seen a flying ship?" "I saw a few flying boats once, but not a whole ship," Sorella said with a shrug. "I didn't venture into cities much, and I never liked being near boats, though I wouldn't say no to having my own." Ren chuckled lightly. "Well, we have a large ship," she said with a shrug. "Anyway, we haven't been to that little house in years, but I miss being there. I miss all the fun we had together." She sighed, her smile turning into a frown. "I just wish things didn't change." "Unfortunately, everything changes," Sorella muttered darkly, her jaw clenching as she glared at the ground. Ren glanced over at her curiously, the small house fading from her mind. "You okay?" "It's fine," Sorella grunted. The two girls fell into silence for a moment, then Sorella got to her feet again. Ren swiftly finished her soup, then stood as well. She grabbed her tray and put it on top of the dirty trays near the door, taking her toast off and munching on it as she trailed Sorella to the northwestern tower. Ren unlocked the door to the tower once she finished her second piece of toast, and the two girls entered. Hyaktu and Zin were sitting at a small round table. They looked up at their arrival, falling quiet at once. "Sorry," Ren yelped. She grabbed Sorella's arm and dashed towards the spiral stairs, the other girl stumbling along after her. They swiftly went up, Ren able to hear a low murmur of voices below them. She hoped Hyaktu wasn't dropping Zin from school. They reached the 5th floor, Sorella opening the door to her room. The ceiling light flashed on as they went in, but it wasn't as bright as the beams Ren had seen from outside. "Definitely couldn't have been the ceiling light," Ren commented, glancing up at the metal rods. Sorella scanned her bland room, containing a bed, wardrobe, and desk. She frowned, then glanced over her shoulder at Ren. "You sure you weren't hallucinating?" Ren shrugged, glancing around the room as well. "Not that I know of," she replied cheerfully. "I guess whatever it was must be gone now."
"Or it was never here to begin with," Sorella said.
"You don't believe me?"
Sorella clenched her jaw. "I'd like to see things for myself, thanks," she uttered.
Ren sighed. "Okay, well, it seems there's nothing here after all. I'll see you tomorrow." She turned on the balls of her feet and left the room before Sorella could reply. Disappointment, irritation, and sadness were swirling through her as she walked down the stairs. "Why doesn't Sorella believe me? I thought we were friends. I thought she trusted me. But she's never going to trust me, is she? She's pushing away, just like Zin." Ren shook her head roughly as she reached the 3rd floor and entered her own bedroom. "No, I can't think like that. Sorella's had a rough past. It'll take her time. That's all. She'll come to trust me. She is my friend."